Well, welcome once again. This is the Doctor of Digital and the Doctor of Digital podcast. The purpose of the show is to transform your business and life with education and inspiration. I introduce busy business leaders to trends in business, technology, and marketing to highlight people you should know. Did you know that personalized stretching can be a game changer for your long-term wellness? Studies have shown that regular stretching can improve flexibility by up to 20%, which can significantly reduce chronic pain and stiffness. Furthermore, improved mobility gained through stretching can enhance your athletic performance and even reduce your risk of injuries. What if there was a unique franchise concept built around one-on-one stretching sessions? An innovative approach such as this targets chronic pain, improves mobility, and helps clients move with greater ease. With over 30 studios already up and running in 15 states and another 30 planned for the next year, StretchMed is rapidly growing in popularity. During this episode, we'll do a deep dive into the changes and hot topics in stretching and improving your health to leverage the expertise of my guest to understand the product and how to navigate the dynamics of the field. By the end of this episode, you'll be better equipped to know what to do, and I encourage you to contact my guest, who is a stretching and wellness expert. Please welcome my special guest, Brian Cook. With that, Brian, thanks for being on the show. Appreciate you taking out some time today.
Hey, Mick. Great to be here.
You know, it's one of these unusual things that I think people are not always thinking about stretching, but I said before the show started, I stretch every day. I'd like to know more. How did you get into this particular field, and how did you get yourself involved in stretching in the first place?
Yeah, great question. I first heard about the concept back in 2015. A family friend had asked me out for coffee to get some advice, and I had been in the fitness industry for a long time. So I said, sure. We met for coffee. And he said, I heard about this one-on-one stretching concept taking off in California. What do you think? And at the time, we were in Boston, so nothing really had hit the East Coast yet. So my advice to him was, pick a good territory. If there's population density and wealth, most things will work, right? It always begins with what territory you pick. Yeah. So we went our separate ways, and this is 2015. So then a couple years later, 2017, someone on my team had left to go to a different franchise for a minute, and then they found their way to Stretch Lab. So then I noticed a franchise called Stretch Lab. Started to see those popping up, really nothing in Massachusetts. I learned about Stretch Zone, saw those popping up kind of everywhere. And then I thought back to the family friend conversation. And then I remembered I used to personally stretch one of the partners of the Boston Red Sox. So I stretched him for 30 minutes, trained him for 30 minutes. So stretching has always been part of my personal training, all my personal training days. So I said, geez, I think this is in our wheelhouse. So I think me and my whole team at the time, I'm like, I think we're going to get in the stretching business. So took it upon myself, and for me to do something, I really have to know it granular. I just won't touch it. So I flew around the country, went to Stretch Lab, Stretch Zone, Stretch U, Joe Stretch, another one called Limber, and wasn't blown away at the experience, but I was like, oh, some of them, were better than others. And then just said, we can do it better. So we spent 9 months just on the stretch. So we kind of perfected the technique. And the best way to explain the differences is that we've created a sequence of stretching head to toe, uninterrupted, no deviation. So it's a standard where what the competitors do is they just give the therapist complete autonomy over like what they do. They say, hey, use these 26 stretches, do whatever you want. The problem with do whatever you want, you have no consistent standard. So we've maintained a standard, and because of that sequence and that system, we're getting more volume of stretching done. So it's kind of like, it's like going to two different trainers. If one does twice the work on you, you're gonna be like, wow, that was better. So we're doing more work in the same minute of time. And then the way we customize it, we customize the PNFs. And I'm sure you guys have all heard the term PNF, proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation, just a fancy word for it's to get your central nervous system to relax. So we get you to an end range in a stretch. We'd have you resist against us, then we'd have you relax, and we go deeper. So it's a pretty easy technique to get you a deeper stretch.
Now, it's kind of interesting. You said you're from Boston. I'm just curious, do you happen to know who the Yaz is?
Yeah, sure do. I think everyone pretty much does. So yeah, Boston sports are pretty spectacular. I'm a hockey. I played hockey growing up, and actually went to Game 7 in Vancouver when the Bruins won. So I was with my son. It was a pretty awesome moment. So yeah, we've been blessed with sports.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. The reason I ask about Carl Yastrzemski is the fact that I grew up in northern New Jersey, but one of my best buddies was a Boston fan, and he was a Carl Yastrzemski's fanatic. Like, oh yeah, well, I was a Mantle fan. What can I tell you? But it's a great sports town.
Awesome.
There's no question about it.
Awesome.
You know, one of the things you had really covered was some of the changes that you have seen and what you've actually been able to accommodate. I'm curious, are there some things that you would say are hot topics or things that people should be aware of when they're thinking of stretching, or maybe some research that is along those lines?
Yeah. So when I first got into StretchMed and started to decided to create the company and build an awesome team around me, it's really all about the team and the franchise owners. Without them, there is no StretchMed. So the first thing is always to look at, we have a framework, and the first module in the framework is vision, right? So when you want to start a company, it's like, all right, what's the purpose? So what problem are you going to solve? So there's approximately 116 million Americans in chronic pain. Crazy fact that I had no idea. So the purpose of StretchMed is to eliminate chronic pain, increase mobility, rejuvenate, and help you move well. So it's, we wanted to lead that with chronic pain because obviously that's the people most suffering that we want to provide alleviation. If you think about the industry, physical therapy, been around for a long time, and it treats an injury. Chiropractic then hit the scene, treats a musculoskeletal injury. Massage therapy hit the scene about 20 some odd years ago, soft tissue work, but nothing exists to move every joint in the body the way it's supposed to move since you were a kid. So now stretch therapy is essentially a brand new vertical that I see developing over the next 20 some odd years, just like massage therapy did. There'll be 3 main brands that will have the conglomerate of the number of units underneath them.
Are there things that you would say people should generally, or what you'd recommend? I mean, there's people like me who do some ordinary stretching and things like that, but are there things that would help people? And then how could they transition to what you're doing? And also thought, since you're opening up some studios, what would be some good areas to move into, or maybe markets that you're looking at?
Yeah, what I would tell your listeners is we're going to develop an at-home routine. We don't have it developed yet, but a great routine. If you Google FRC, the morning routine, it's a fantastic free. You'll see a bunch of different practitioners showing you this 10-15 minute morning routine. It's essentially like flossing your joints. So it's really just getting mobile. Working on your active range of motion, since it's yourself. When you come into a studio, we're actually pushing you through all the motion. So it's a passive stretching routine. But I'd say that's a good tool to use at home. And when you think about this, the skeletal system, the minute you lose range of motion, like when you see people turn, they have to turn their whole body. They can't turn their neck. We have 5 stretches just for the neck. So once you lose range of motion, all the muscle involved in that movement starts to atrophy. And that's why as we get older, we lose more and more lean body mass, and we typically, muscle gets replaced with fat. So it's kind of like, got to maintain mobility, got to maintain flexibility, and we want to stay active in those new ranges of motion. So, that's what I recommend. to kind of get going with a self-care kind of routine. And then what we're going to do at StretchMed, we're piloting a whole new pricing structure, which we're really excited about. We've lowered the price to $80 a month, gets you 4 25-minute stretches a month, which is crazy. And then we're going to kind of build an app.
Oh.
We've got these flexibility, these flex machines where you can do like a routine on a machine, self-guided, and then we put you on a table for 10 minutes and do our kind of hands-on treatment.
Okay.
But we envision that you'll have a flex trainer in your house, you'll have a yoga mat, you'll have a blocks, and you'll have a strap, and we'll create this 15, 20-minute arm routine. We'll see you once a week just to check your progress and make sure you didn't get lazy and you're not doing the work.
Are there things that have changed when it comes to aging, and then also like one of the phrases that I've heard that sitting is the new smoking, right? So I mean, there's a lot of people that are tied to their desks, they're tied to a computer, and I'm wondering if you could address that, both the aging issues when it comes to stretching, and then also the fact that so many people really are not moving as much because they're tied to what they do before a computer or a laptop or what have you.
Yeah, I think longevity is really the hot new reality. I just turned 53 and I have goal to live well into my hundreds, so pretty intense into longevity. And I think it begins with mobility. So morning routine, overhead squats. You can do a lot of stuff at home that's going to keep you flexible and fit. And you kind of figure out what activity do you like, right? Everyone likes something different: the gym, running, hiking. But flexibility is kind of undisputed, primary to all those other things. You got to start with flexibility, start with range of motion, and it's really going to protect you from injury. It's going to do all kinds of great things. And the great thing about this concept is everyone knows what it is. They know it's good for you. It's just whether they do it or not, which is the case. Is usually most people don't do it enough or do anything.
And whatever a person does, I'm assuming too that it helps the body when you stretch. So, for example, I hike and walk, but you probably would recommend that there's some sort of stretching involved because that cuts down on injuries. It also means that you're probably better prepared for those activities as well.
Yeah. So with the way to get, so what happens when you're trying to get flexible, right? So your central nervous system is actually controlling your flexibility. It's not going to allow you into a new range unless you prove mastery in the new range. So what we're doing at StretchMed is we're getting you into a new range of motion. Then we're getting you to work, getting you to get strong with those PNF components, teaching your central nervous system that there's mastery here. It's safe to give him or her this range of motion. And then when you use that range of motion hiking, you're recruiting more muscle, which is going to burn more calories, allow you to perform better, hike faster. Otherwise, you've got these short ranges of motion that you're kind of getting through life with, as opposed to longer, more effective ranges of motion.
Would you say, are there things that you could address in terms of expertise and in terms of what is offered for a person who's both involved in the stretching and also in your studio operations as well too? So what sort of things do you offer, in terms of a full range of expertise?
Yeah, so what happens is all of our stretch therapists have to go through a rigorous 100-hour certification program. So typically our therapists are certified personal trainers, so that kind of vets people in the first place. Like you really have a passion for health and fitness and helping people. Then they go through this pretty detailed 3D for medical anatomy course, which is really cool. It's really, for many it's a refresher, but just getting through anatomy, and it shows how all the muscle tissues are layered. It's not like one muscle ends and one begins. It's layers of tissue upon layers. And then they learn our 36 different stretches, they learn the naming, and then they start to put together the sequences. We've got a 10-minute sequence, a 25, a 40, and a 55. Those are the 4 different stretching sequences. And then we customize the PNFs according to where you're limited, where you're hurt, where you have pain, etc. So, and for me personally, I have a degree in exercise physiology and started personal training when I was 20 and I'm 53, as I mentioned. So pretty much found my passion real early. Love transformation, love helping people, and definitely longevity is my thing.
Are there some differences in terms of body mass? I know if a person has put on the extra pounds, are there differences in terms of age? And do you account for those kinds of things in this process?
So yeah, good question. Just like fitness, every body moves the same way, and it should train the same way. There's no variation. It comes down to so in fitness, it's just the only thing that separates me, you, and anyone else is our range of motion and how strong we are, right? And we always want to push beyond our current capacity to get fit. And then the same with stretching. All the stretches are the same. It's just going to determine your 7. So we're going to push you to what we define as a 7, which is the point where if we push any further, you're going to start to fight us. You're going to resist us. We want to get you just to a point where you're going to relax, deep breathing, and then we'll get into a nice deep stretch. So your 7 could be a 90-degree hamstring stretch. Someone else could be like literally 20 degrees off the table, and they're like, you're killing me. So we just converse with you, tell me when, tell me good, and then we get you to that range, hold you there, get you to breathe, get you to fire the muscle, go a little deeper, and then switch. So it's pretty awesome.
And I understand that it's really personalized then, right? So, I mean, you wouldn't push me beyond my capacity to bear no one else, right? Excuse me. I don't necessarily want to be an Olympic athlete, especially at my age, but you don't want to push somebody, but you also want to have somewhat of a challenge in there too, so that they are actually improving their health.
Exactly. A 7 is a 7 is a 7. So it's all, and the 7 is defined as just before it's uncomfortable. We've got some college athletes that come in on break, and we're doing some heavy duty.
Okay.
Like we're essentially turning it into a workout. We're turning it into a workout by intensifying the PNF hold and contraction. So
Do you have athletes, amateur and professional? I mean, would they benefit from what you're
yeah,
doing?
yeah, definitely. We've got a lot of golf, ton of golfers, and now we're up to 30 locations in 15 states, 27 more in development. So we've got a lot of retired. We've got some retired Bruins players in Boston coming into some of our studios, which is kind of cool, and just some younger high school and college athletes definitely in the program.
Sounds great. We learned a lot about health, and I feel healthier now, benefiting from what you have said. What would a person do, and how do they get a hold of you, especially since you're doing a lot and expanding as well? What would you recommend that a person do if they want to reach out and contact
Yeah,
you?
so our website is stretchmedstudios.com, and it's just stretchmedstudios, plural.com. And then really I'm not really on social media, but my LinkedIn, I'm starting to do more there. We're gonna start doing a bunch there, but which is Brian R. Cook 1. You find me on LinkedIn, and yeah, we're building StretchMed as a franchise model. I currently reside in Puerto Rico. We're opening a corporate location in LA. So we very much designed StretchMed to be run through a manager, and we would help all franchise owners develop and train those managers via a consultant that we use. And then we've got a few owners, approaching 4 locations, and within a couple of years since they started with us. So it's pretty exciting.
Well, it sounds it. Well, thank you so much, Brian. I appreciate the background. I appreciate the expertise. And it sounds like it's a growing and thriving business. That's great to hear as well. So thanks for taking out some time, and appreciate you stopping by today.
Thanks for having me, Mick. Take care.
So that was the Doctor of Digital with this latest podcast, and that's Brian Cook. And hopefully you like what you're hearing. And if you do, make sure that you subscribe, share, and tell everybody else, and that keeps the episodes coming. So if you want to know more about coming and what we're doing, keep in touch, because we've always got episodes coming your way. Until next time, this is the Doctor of Digital signing out.